Thank you for coming. My name is Mario Rodriguez. I'm a backend engineer in Barcelona. And today I make a bold statement. Today I'm talking about simplifying the release, which is a statement in itself. The release process is very complicated. And then I'm removing the jgitflow, which is almost a religious topic, right? So before I start, I have a confession to make. I really hate repetitive tasks. I think it's a nice way elegant way of saying that you are lazy. I really hate waking up in the morning and then having to do the bed, doing the pillows, putting these things here. Also, tasks that really require detail-oriented approaches. Just to give an example, my wife is pregnant and she always gives me some recently special missions to the grocery store. And I come back with, oh yeah, I got you the three-color spaghetti, checked. Whole grain, checked. With the brand that you want. But then she goes, oh, you got the wrong grams. The size of the weight is 200 grams. And if you had gotten the 175 that I told you, it was on discount. So why do I tell all of that? Because the release process is a very, very intense process. It's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of things going on, and making a mistake on that process. And what I wanted to do is share our internal tools that we have available to save you time on doing repetitive tasks, and to save you time also on checkpoints, because we all want to have that. And hopefully I can show you. So we'll go to a normal process. So in Miles and More, it's a good example. It's a very complicated process. We have normally in a release cycle, we branch directly from develop. Developers work on making commits or changes. You see that I already have a develop branch. You have a POM that points to a snapshot. This gets deployed normally to the develop branch. So imagine all the team working on that, making the changes. You have Eric here making a feature branch or to make the pull requests. You work on that. Commit gets merged, right? Goes through all our Jenkins process to validate that. We make a full feature, so the project manager knows how many changes are included in the release. So the client knows what it's paying for. QA knows what to test, right? In our current release process for jgitflow or whatever you have to think about these numbers, right? What is in master? What do you have in develop? How that gets increased? And then the process also labels what you deliver. So that box of that is there is labeled, right? So all that goes through the jgitflow process. And repeats again. You deliver that, you pass it to the system engineer, to Catalin or to Richard, and that gets pushed to production. So everything is fine until the hotfix. So imagine yourself, you're there on a Friday afternoon, right? And man, everything worked fine, right? A blocker arrives, right? And you're there, you're working on that, all the team working on the fixing. You have dependencies. You have yourself that have to deploy the AEM code, and things start to break just at the last moment, just at the last time when your POMs get changes, when you see the mapping get flow with success. But that last merge to develop, I probably talk like that, it's better. Your last merge to develop gets screwed. You get a conflict. And then everybody's on top of you. You have no escape. They're like, oh, Mario, what's going on? Sergio is asking, how can I help you? And there's really nothing to do but to resolve those conflicts, right? So it looks something like this, right? It's a confusion. If you think any line of development is a train line, this is more or less how it looks like. So I want to show you how we can use 3 use cases, 3 stories, to help throw away all these things, which is really complex if you look at that diagram. We also not only have a complex diagram, but a complex process of everybody in the wiki. In Miles and More, we try to debate and fight and have wars over how this has to be done, what needs to be done how this needs to be deployed to QA. There's a problem when you have a hotfix because it's not the normal branch, and so forth. So how do we make this easier and better and faster? And as I was saying, yeah, there's a lot of, we want to reduce all the risks of conflicts, and we want to standardize all the steps, right? So I have 3 stories for you today. Pellegrino, the trainer, told us to pick up a story that was engaging, but we have so many horror stories. I mean, with Oscar, with Tobias, in Malsamur, I can write a book to really compete with any horror. But the simple story, you as a release manager, Valdas is not here, but I'm using Holacracy. Whoever takes that role, a lot of pressure on you because you have to really deliver. But you want to just automate the task. You don't want to be the one there being the bottleneck on that release. You want to have that in a control workflow that not only deploys, but in the QA takes your integration tests, makes sure that all the bundles are active. If you're deploying a multi-module process like is Miles and More, you have like a platform which is similar to UBS Share or a core, right? And then if you start deploying, there's dependencies that you might break on other projects. And all of these things have already been, there's a list of checks that is a good talk by Georg later on. Florin also on this automation process, right? So it's this simple. It's amazing, but it's this simple. The Jenkins file, you put release strategy is simple, right? Your process goes through all these steps, and at the end, it will ask you, do you want to release? And the simple release is, are you taking a release code from develop? He asks you. You can even make a mistake, type the wrong, obviously release. Those releases will obviously affect your POM. But if you want to later on delete the branch and redeploy, it's very easy, right? So what really, in a summary, what do you have to do? Just for the simple process is that you have a develop branch and you just want to release from there, right? The Jenkins task, what really does behind the scenes, it sets the release version and sets the current version for the next release, obviously. And then that's probably the most important thing. You're getting Nexus that code so that Richard or Catalin or your system engineer can then take that to the client because that's the last step. And that's where Florin's automation process also comes in, right? The second user story, you are a release manager that wants to have parallel deployments. So it's only one train, now we have 2. These parallel deployments could be something similar to a hotfix. You have something in master, and now you don't have master, so you are based on Git tags because it's what you label in the deployment, right? You change release strategy to release branches. That's also as simple. I also put it another property that you could use, but because by default, the release branch, when finished, will merge back to develop. Okay, and the process is very simple. So you can create a release based on a given branch or on any tag. But the important thing is the name convention. So it's called release and your number system behind it. That allows you to leverage all the Jenkins pipeline. If you haven't used Jenkins, you definitely should check some of the projects because it's very easy to now configure when you have a release branch. This will be deployed to QA, so the QA team immediately tests before you have to reconfigure the Jenkins jobs or configurations. So that's very easy and adds a multiple list of checks. And then you finalize the release. The publishing of the artifact to Nexus is probably the best proof that everything went okay. So this is an example from live from Miles and More. We created a 2.75 release based on you click on the builds. This is probably a confusing aspect. Every branch gets built, so it goes to a process. But in this case, for this one, you have to go inside and finalize the release, right? It will for you to do it. And then you can delete that. You can even keep that branch for reference or whatever you want to do it. After this is done, again, obviously all these changes go back to develop, right? Unless you specify a different branch. The same thing happens behind the scenes. I just want to highlight that you could optionally have that branch left for future reference. Okay. The third user story is that you are a maniac release manager, and you don't have two trains. You have a train station that you want to parallel. Why do you want to do that, right? You may have a 6.3 upgrade or a TouchUI upgrade that runs parallel to your current development system. So you have version 3, and then you have 2 point something, and you want to keep them separated. And then you want the 2 point something to continuously release, 2.19.1, 2.19.2, right? So you do use a branch system with an X in it. And again, this will build, and when you go again on you set the release strategy again, you make the sample release. This is a naming convention, and your POM should be synchronized with this, obviously. Otherwise, you don't know what version is using. So with this approach, this is a use case where you want to release on Monday, and on Tuesday of the next week, another version, 2.19, and you want to have that branch there, and will help you decrease the risk of conflicts. Anytime needed, you can merge back to merge the changes also. So just to summarize again how the release process works. Jenkins sets the version. It's based, again, it's a system mostly on tags and the versions of the POMs. You might have different difficulties on the POMs depending on your projects, if it's multi-modules. There's also other options that you can use to synchronize that. But basically, this is the 3 main uses of the tool. Okay. Lessons learned, and what you can get from here is that obviously conflicts, there will be there. If you delete a POM, you delete some, it's almost impossible sometimes to, but it gives you at least some room to use it differently, mainly because in the other model, you do a double merge, and you hotfix with the master and branch, and with this one, you just have one merge, so it gives you more flexibility. Also, release is a coordinating effort, so you have to be coordinating your team so they know what project managers are expecting, what QA and tech leads are doing. It's a key to have this task automated, because automating the task allows you to have consistency and reuse. We have a lot of things that we can reuse out of our Jenkins pipeline. And also, I think this is I didn't know, but Conrad, our CTO, today was talking about leveraging and accelerating our development process, improving that speed. And this is key, I think, on that, saving you time. And don't be left behind. I think a lot of projects are going into that direction. It's very easy to give it a try. You can even create your own test branch, because I know that during that period of time, it's the most stressful situation, and you don't want to test on that. That day. This is also a good project that came from a discussion that I had with Georg and Michael Strasse, and it's a proof of Netcentric making things happen. Share, discuss, and bring ideas to life. And we talked 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then Georg already had all the pipeline plugins. So big thanks to Georg for his contribution. If you want to know more, there is the famous pipeline syntax list of variables. And if you look for anything related to release, just related to the release strategy, release, if you want to cherry pick after the release, what branch you want to merge, and so forth. And also if you want to look at the code. Okay? And thanks very much.